Hi, I'm Brad Smart, founder of Topgrading, and if you heard the other vlogs, you've heard in this introduction that I'm frequently referred to as the world's #1 expert on hiring. That's true. I doubt, frankly, that I am the #1 world expert on hiring, but I do have a lot of experience to help you hire better, to achieve not just a little better, but dramatically better hiring success, like 80% high performers hired. Not just okay performers, high performers hired. Two of the biggest problems in hiring, which I've mentioned in the first two blogs in this series, are one, candidate dishonesty. All right, dishonesty in their resumes, and our research indicates that about 40% of resumes contain deliberate falsehoods and dishonesty in interviews. All right, and the second problem is related to the first. And the second problem is poor verification of what candidates tell you. All right? They know that reference checks are generally worthless. They might not be done, or they might be done with buddies of the candidate and so forth. So how can you tell if what candidates told you is the truth? And that can be kind of frustrating, right? Because the interviews a lot of times are to see how much is real and how much is not real. Okay, we have the solutions to those two problems, all right? And the first tip said that in order to solve the first problem, candidate dishonesty, simply tell candidates right at the beginning of the hiring process, a final step in hiring is for you, candidate, to arrange reference calls with the people I'd like to talk with, all right? Bosses in the past 10 years and perhaps others, okay? In vlog number two, poor verification of what candidates tell you, you simply arrange those calls. Don't just say you're going to, but do it. Arrange the calls, but you don't have to arrange them because you just simply ask the candidate to do it. They do it, and vlog number two gave you some hints on how to make that go smoothly. All right, so the first two vlogs gave you quick, easy, free, and highly effective solutions to those two major problems that all of us involved in hiring have experienced. Okay, tip number 3 is just an elaboration on something I touched on in vlog number 2, is that hiring managers really should do the reference calls. Maybe you can have someone else on them, but do them. Now let me give you some of the reasons. So this tip is some reasons why it's important for you as a hiring manager to participate in those calls. Okay, so the calls in the past you might have delegated to someone else, maybe someone in human resources. And why? Because rarely were they reference calls with the most important people, like the bosses. So you kind of shrug your shoulders, see what you can find from the candidate's references. Secondly, too often you learn that the references were, frankly, the buddies of the candidate. Maybe their next door neighbors, their insurance agent, their priest, and I'm joking, but you get the problem, all right? So I mean, it was sensible maybe for you in the past to ask human resources or someone else anyway, maybe your assistant, go ahead and do the reference calls, summarize them, list the positives, but frankly, if you can, I frankly want to know more about what the negatives might be, the kinds of things we'd find out that in 3 months that we wish we found out earlier. But with Topgrading, it's way, way better because, as you know, the low performers and frankly the BSers have dropped out. Okay, so you have the most honest and high-performing candidates, and those are the ones whom you've asked to arrange the reference calls. So, okay, here are the reasons why you really should do these reference calls. One, you'll hear almost all honest and thoughtful appraisals. There won't be any doubt to that. Okay, and repeating myself, tip number 1, scared away the low performers who tend to be the BSers. You know, but candidates' resumes were honest for the people now you're talking to, okay, as candidates, and they probably told you the whole truth, knowing they'd have to arrange calls with bosses and maybe some other people. So honesty makes your participation in these calls much more valuable, okay? Number 2, you really do want to confirm or disconfirm your opinions. You would like to know the truth. All right. Your finalists maybe admitted mistakes and failures and showed you over time that they really did. They maximized strengths and they overcame some of their failures or mistakes. They were disorganized, now they're better organized. Maybe they weren't positive as leaders, now they're much more positive, whatever. Okay, so you saw them evolve in the interview into who they are today. So they probably told you the truth, but now you want to confirm it, right? You want to talk to bosses, perhaps peers and subordinates, and find out the truth. All right. Third point is you need to be certain this great candidate will accept your leadership style. Okay? You're going to be the candidate's manager, so you need to personally probe and ask questions to test whether this candidate mesh with your leadership, whatever it is. So you can hear maybe bosses talk about what they consider the strengths and weaker points of the candidate, but your follow-up questions will probe, and maybe you disclose some things about you like to be kept informed about this or that, and you tend to be whatever you tend to be, and see how they all react to that. As I said in vlog number 2, it's kind of like you sit on a plane, and the person sitting next to you is one of these people the candidate is arranging for you to talk with. And maybe you have a drink and strike up a conversation, you build the rapport. How useful would that be if, one, you're pretty confident the candidate has been honest with you and told you the truth and is a high performer, and this might be a person, a manager, the candidate reported to 3 to 7 years ago. How useful would that be? All right. Well, there's even another use for doing these and a purpose, and that's to, if you're going to be hiring, you want to know how to best coach this person. It's kind of related to your leadership style and whether you'd mesh, but just routinely in reference calls, perhaps toward the end, ask, what's your best advice to me? You've learned about me and what the job is. You've told me about the candidate and the strengths and weaker points and potentials. Cool, I really appreciate that. What would be your main advice to me about how to best work with this individual, how to best coach and develop this person? After you've spent 20, 25 minutes, and these useful reference calls are apt to be that long, okay, for a managerial candidate anyway, all right, that's going to be very interesting and useful for you to hear what person you first call talks about in terms of your coaching advice. The second person, the third person, you'll probably see some patterns in that. And in those patterns, you'll get deeper insights into the candidate's strengths, which you want to maximize. But how do you do it? Is public praise something this person might appreciate? Or maybe they just be embarrassed, or whatever it is. So listen carefully to those coaching suggestions. You won't regret it a bit. So there you have 3 blogs on this beginning top grading series. Hope they're useful to you. Look forward to offering some more tips in the future. In the meantime, if you're a little eager and you want to know about this top grading stuff, you can go to www.topgrading.com and download the free e-guide, Top Grading 401. Gives you a much broader overview of top grading and some more hints in there.